Welcome to Lesson 5 in Unit 17, Streamside Survival. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how are plants able to survive where they live? In this lesson, students figure out that plants have a system to absorb water from the ground and distribute it throughout the plant using many internal and external structures. Plants also have structural and behavioral adaptations that help them survive and reproduce. Students make connections to the storyline by researching and modeling how wetland plants use internal and external structures to grow, survive, and reproduce. There are several opportunities for ELA cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. You can look for specific standard connections in the Unit 17 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 4 to 5 days to complete. To begin the engage portion of the lesson, you'll remind students that in the last section, they focused on how animals use internal and external structures to survive in a wetland area. You'll ask what other living things besides animals are found in a wetland environment. You'll show students the pictures of wetland plants and ask what they might know about plant structures and their functions. You'll then revisit the driving question board to add any new questions and highlight others connected to the learning goals of this lesson by calling attention to questions about how wetland plants use their structures to survive. For the Explore portion, students will be investigating the roots of wetland plants through a model. Be sure to see the tutorial for examples, setup, and procedure information for this investigation. You'll have students use the Modeling Wetland Roots student journal page along with the investigation. For the Explain portion, you'll invite students to share their findings from the plant structures investigation. You'll use the provided questions to guide your discussion around the question, how are plants able to survive where they live? The goal of this class discussion is to analyze the observations of the Wetland Roots investigation to determine how plants use a system of structures to grow and survive. You'll use the discussion to create the Lesson 5 summary chart. By the end of the discussion, students should understand that many wetland plants have frayed or fibrous roots because they hold the plant into the soil and absorb more water, allowing it to survive when the area is very wet or very dry. Some of these plants have thistles or thorns that protect them from being eaten. They reproduce using flowers and seeds. These seeds float and can be moved by the wind. You'll have students read how plants move and use water. After the reading, you can post and discuss the roots, stems, xylem, leaves, and veins vocabulary cards. You'll also have students answer the last question on the Modeling Wetland Roots student journal page. For the Elaborate portion, you'll read Plants Fight Back. Be sure to use the Read Aloud guide for discussion questions. You'll then provide students time to research ways plants' internal structures help them survive. You'll direct students to the Plant Adaptation student journal page and have them add details about how their plant's internal structures help them survive. They can choose any plant from the wetland plant list to research. You'll use the evidence observed from the investigation and what they collected from the book to draw a picture of wetland plants. You'll first develop a Gotta Have It checklist that tells what they want to include in the first part of their picture. For the Evaluate portion, you'll have students complete the Plant Structure Quick Check student journal page. To support student sense-making across the unit, you'll orient students back to the driving question board. Ask, what did we learn about how plants are able to survive where they live? And what new questions do we have? By the end of this lesson, students will have collected evidence on the internal and external structures wetland plants use to grow, survive, and reproduce. In Lesson 6, students will investigate how plants affect how the wetland area functions. For more information about this unit, visit mysidepartners.com.